So does the fact that Clinton got nearly 3 million more voters matter? And if it doesn't, why is Donald Trump still griping about it on Twitter? Sam Stein is the political editor for the Huffington Post. Hugh Hewitt is the host of the Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network, and both are MSNBC contributors. Thanks for being here, guys. Great to be here in person with you in D.C. Okay, I'm going to let you guys play armchair psychiatrist here for just a moment, and I'll ask each of you. Donald Trump won the election. The Electoral College certified him.
Sure.
Why does he seem, Sam, to be still so bothered by this popular vote number?
It's a great question. I mean, first of all, I think actually Newt is right there. You know, he won by the rules that you play the game, and he's president, and there's no way to take that away. And if you are going to say that it matters, it's only to the extent that he can claim a mandate, which is sort of this symbolic thing anyway, because if you win, you're going to go about pursuing your agenda regardless. So why does it bother him? I think it's because he has a very healthy ego. And this is someone who notoriously obsessed over the ratings of every TV show he did and follows cable news religiously. He might be watching right now. And I think he likes to think of himself as a winner in all facets, and so this is what probably gnaws at him at night.
And you know, go on.
No, the election deniers don't bother him. The election deniers are on almost every cable show bringing up this irrelevant fact. She did win by a lot in the popular vote. It doesn't matter. I think he's concerned about AP test takers, because every time the popular vote comes up, I think someone gets a 2 or a 1 on the AP government test because they think it matters. It doesn't matter. He follows the news. He responds to the news. When are we going to stop talking about it? It's Rutherford B. Hayes, it's Benjamin Harrison, it's John Quincy. It doesn't matter.
That's Rutherford B. Hayes to you, my friend. When we talk about the great Rutherford Hayes. And you know, it is interesting because Donald Trump didn't always like the Electoral College. And it is part of the reason that people are still talking about is, A, he's still talking and tweeting about it and can't seem to stop, but also because he actually used to think that the Electoral College was almost a scam. This weekend, Donald Trump did praise the Electoral College. Let's listen to that.
The electoral vote, and I never appreciated it until now, how genius it was, what they had in mind. Because at the time, they didn't want everybody going to Boston and New York, and everything else would be forgotten. And now it's the same thing. It's genius. I'm telling you, it's genius.
But now let us take you back to yesteryear, to 2012, when Trump had a very different view of the Electoral College. After Barack Obama's victory over Mitt Romney, Trump tweeted, incorrectly by the way, that Romney won the popular vote but lost in the Electoral College. In reality, President Obama won both quite handily. Trump wrote back then, quote, the Electoral College is a disaster for democracy. He also tweeted, but later deleted this, he lost the popular vote by a lot and won the election. We should have a revolution in this country. So yeah. Hypocrisy. However, shocked, right? But it does sort of point out this one fundamental difference between Democrats and Republicans. If Donald Trump had won the popular vote by 3 million votes and lost in the Electoral College, he would be calling for revolution. Democrats are sort of...
I do, absolutely. Because, I mean, I believe in constitutional majorities. I know the Federalist Papers.
I don't know about Donald Trump.
Some of his supporters might have been upset, but the Republican Party is a Federalist party. A constitutional majority has always been the same way. I love the Electoral College. I've always loved it. I'm glad he's evolved. And you can learn to appreciate the genius of Philadelphia.
You're speaking for the Republican conservatives who've read the Federalist Papers. That is not Donald Trump. I'm sure he doesn't quite know.
I think that... partisans on each side are a little bit selective in their outrage on this. I imagine that had the situation been reversed, Democrats would have been loving the Electoral College right now, and as you mentioned,
Trump would have been calling for revolution.
You know, it's tough to put yourself in Trump's head, but I happen to think he would have actually been holding a pitchfork, taking a selfie, doing an Instagram saying, we need to go to the streets.
And his supporters would have been railing that the results were illegitimate and that the resulting president-elect was illegitimate.
You guys don't understand
It is a complete reversal.
A couple of days ago, Stan wrote a story
But it's on his Twitter. But hold on.
It's on his Twitter feed.
It's literally on his Twitter feed, right?
But that Twitter is an exclamatory way to make a headline.
Well, that's all I'm saying.
It's not an argument, not a revolution. A couple of days ago, you wrote a story that said that Trump's people are homophobic. And, you know, when Richard Grinnell ends up in a senior position...
I wrote a story that said Trump people are homophobic?
Yeah, that he had been advised to purge all of the gay people.
Oh, no. The story, if you want to be correct, the Family Research Council called for Trump to take to the State Department looking for people who pushed a gay agenda, literally quoting the Family Research Council.
But Trump is not part of that.
I just want to know, no, because you just maligned me. You just maligned me. I never... ever, for the record, said Trump's people are homophobic. I reported...
So you agree? Good.
No, I know Rick Grinnell. I like Rick Grinnell. But the Family Research Council called for the State Department to purge people pushing an LGBT agenda.
So
that was the
let's get back on the rails just for 1 second, because we do want to talk a little bit about the Electoral College system, because there's a bigger picture here, which is that you have Republicans essentially dismissing your state, the state you live in, California, and pretending that it should essentially be thrown off the map, and that 1/8 of this country's population doesn't matter. I mean, the reality is Hillary Clinton's popular vote majority is a fact, and the way it's relevant, I would argue, and a lot of Democrats would argue, is that it should chasten Donald Trump in terms of his mandate. It has not, right?
No.
It simply has not.
Because you would be crazy to spend $1 in California if you're a Republican running for California. Absolutely out of your mind to spend $1 in New York, in the same way that Secretary Clinton should not have spent $1 in Texas, or if she did spend money in Georgia, it was stupidly spent.
I don't know if people would argue about that Texas thing, because I think Democrats made up some ground in Texas that could pay dividends in the future. But we have to go to this. We have to get this in. Last night on his Fox News show, Bill O'Reilly defended the Electoral College in the strangest way. He said liberals wanted to get rid of it in order to focus presidential campaigns on urban areas. Okay, pin in that, with large populations of minority voters. The result, he argued, would marginalize white voters. Take a listen.
In the large urban areas and blue states like New York and California, minorities are substantial. Look at the landscape. Philadelphia, Dallas-Fort Worth, Miami. In all of these places, the minority vote usually goes heavily to the Democrats. Talking Points believes this is all about race. The left sees white privilege in America as an oppressive force that must be done away with. Therefore, white working-class voters must be marginalized. And what better way to do that than center the voting power in the cities? Summing up, left wants power taken away from the white establishment. They want a profound change in the way America is run. Taking voting power away from the white precincts is the quickest way to do that.
Guys, I mean, other than the Afrikaners in the 1980s, I have never heard that particular argument for a system of, I don't know what he's arguing for. I'll let you talk about it, Sam.
Well, I'm not quite sure either. Usually don't say that stuff out loud, let alone write it into your talking points memo.
It was in the prompter, right?
Yeah,
He
it was in the prompter.
freestyling.
He wasn't like freelancing there.
No.
You know, he's kind of right in some respects, right? I mean, we have an electoral system that puts a lot of emphasis on people going out to urban, suburban areas. I mean, it's not just the Electoral College system. The first two states in the primaries are Iowa and New Hampshire. They have incredibly low minority populations. And so because of that, there's a cumulative effect, I think, where politicians focus on issues that sort of tend to deal with white, suburban, white, working class voters.
But
and there's not much of an urban policy that comes to the fore.
The inconvenient fact is that the Electoral College was designed when only white men could vote. Yeah. And therefore it was not designed to oppress black voters who in fact were not citizens and couldn't vote but were enslaved.
Except that it was designed to ensure the promulgation of slavery because it was there to
power. But it was small state, large state.
Slave-holding state.
It was small state, large state, and that's why it still works today.
But even putting the origins aside, you can look at it objectively and say, okay, we have a system where, and this is true certainly in the 2016 election, where a lot of focus, attention, and influence was put on these Rust Belt states. Now, you can say that's a great system or not, but actually O'Reilly's onto something, which is that if you are operating within the contours of that system, you end up emphasizing issues and focusing on voters that aren't necessarily representative of the population.
And meanwhile, there are very important issues facing urban communities, sort of diverse communities that wind up getting marginalized. I'm not sure that's a great system, but we can debate that another day. Sam Stein, Hugh Hewitt. And we shall. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. And coming up, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, etc. Happy Hanukkah and everything to you guys.